Carpe diem. Carpe diem.
Lots of love. 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 Lots of love.
Another week means another Friday, means another CGL Friday Night Overwatch as we step into week 3 of the EU PC Open Tier Division. My name is Sam Tonks. I'm going to be your host for the evening. And of course, we have the ever lovable desk that is going to be joining me with some new faces on it this time around for this week. We have Soavdanum, we have Hunter Tane from last week, and of course, joining us, Jesse Twin Salty. So let's go ahead and start off with the newer members of the desk. So let's get some introductions out of the way. Who are you? What do you do?
Oh, if you're asking that question, Sam, like you haven't been here long enough. I'm all right. I guess I'm one of the older heads of CGL. I've been color casting for these guys for a while, and I have seen so many of these teams come and go, and that's why, as obviously the perfect fit for this desk, I will know every single 100% of these outcomes. You can count on that for sure.
Absolutely. Well, that's why we got you on the desk. We need your big brain, right? We need
Of course.
listen, after the predictions from last week, okay, we need someone here who knows what they're
Yeah.
who knows what they're talking about. So Twin Salty, now we go over to yourself, my friend. You're also joining us on the desk for this week. We need to know, who are you? What's going on with you?
So I'm new to the CGL world. I've been watching for a long time, but it's awesome to make my debut here today. But I've been bouncing around the collegiate space for a very long time, basically the entire time I've been in college. But yeah, it's awesome to see a little bit of EU action today.
We're all excited to see EU action, especially after what we got last week and the major upset that happened on the desk. I'm surprised that we even still have a desk at this point and that it didn't just erupt into flames, basically. And of course, joining us once again is Hunter. Hunter, I can't leave you out. So you want to say anything? You want to give some love out there?
All I could say is I'm going to try the best I can with these predictions to fix my transgressions from last week, because I can't get over that still. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
we just,
It's week one. It's week one. I get it.
It's week one.
We're warming up. Yeah, I get it.
We just had to get it all out of the way. We had to get all of the wrong predictions. I say that though, but just you wait until you see the predictions that we have going on later during that segment. So let's go ahead and talk about the season now as it is. Since we've stepped into week 3, we're starting to get more of an idea, more of a formulation in our heads of how things are looking between these teams and how they're starting to progress throughout the season itself. And so I want to start off with you, since you got that big brain, you got a lot of information stored up in there. Give us that overview.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at both of these teams in particular, you see a tale of two stories. You see the 2-0 in Sigmy Overwatch 2, and you see the 0-2 in No Limits. Both of these teams had quite a different route to get here, and considering they're at polar ends of the spectrum, 1 and 10 respectively, it's also hard not to look at who they played to get here, because when you really look at both of their routes to their things, this is a stacked group, and both whoever you play off first is really going to set the pace. And I think that Sigmy Gaming definitely showed that they are a dominant force here to earn that 2-0.
Yeah, it's once again week 3, right?
Yeah.
This is starting to set the pace. It's starting to set the standard of what you've been going through, and getting a little bit of that history should also help the desk out with his predictions. Hopefully, hopefully. Hopefully. Hunter, what about yourself? I want to hear your opinions and some of the thoughts on how the season has been progressing.
I mean, so far, we talk about being, in our third weekend right now. For me, that isn't fully a lot to come to a conclusion how things are, because unfortunately, sometimes not all groups are created equal. When you are put into a group with a team like Enemy Overwatch, who has won CGL before, they have done it before, and very well might do it again at this rate, that's just kind of unfortunate. But you do have to look at that team like NoLimitsAgain, who has had tougher opponents to deal with on their way to coming into this situation. So now facing against Sigmy Overwatch 2, I'm more or less just curious if that 2-0 to 0-2 complexion kind of still exists, because we learned last week that those first impressions sometimes don't mean a lot, that these kind of upsets can happen. But I think with today in mind, no matter how things go, I think that will end up being definitively a good opinion that we can shape between these two teams.
Upsets are always something that I think, when they do happen, are a lot of fun, right? They throw expectations off, and it's once again talking about the ability of players inside of the great game of Overwatch to be able to exceed those kind of expectations. And I mean, for yourself, Twin Salty, do you think we're going to be seeing any of those expectations dashed today?
I think there's a small potential for it. I think with No Limits as well, they've not won a map, not let alone a match. They have yet to win a map this season, so that might also be a thing. Like, even if they don't win this series, if they get a map or 2 on the board, that at least shows us that there are some fight there, and maybe in the second half of this season they can start bringing it around, especially with the game seems like it's changing like every 3-4 days.
Yeah, well, we actually do have the standings in front of us here. Of course, you can see that it is a very stacked group of teams that we have going on, with MME Overwatch sitting at the top, all the way down at the bottom, No Limits again. And in fact, talking about the teams that we're going to be seeing today, which is Sigmy Overwatch 2 and No Limits again, right? Sigmy Overwatch 2 is sitting at 2-0, No Limits again sitting at 0-2. I don't think these standings, right, Hunter, are really giving us the full story of what exactly has been going on.
No, not in the slightest, because kind of we take a look between these two teams, and it's very easy to look at the face value of like, oh, it's a 2-0, this is the best team. Oh, that's an 0-2. Oh, this is the worst team. It's not that simple these first couple of weeks in, because we haven't gone through the full round robin yet. Now all these teams have had the opportunities to face each other, and regardless of what we look at it now, some teams are going to be definitively stronger than others. So for a team like No Limits, we'll get into who they kind of have gone up against. Same thing with Sigmy Overwatch, but that does not tell their story in the slightest. And that's why I really think today is going to be a good tell to see if Sigmy really is that 2-0 team that they have prouted to be so far, and if No Limits really is sinking down as 0-2, potentially 0-3 team.
We're going to find out. It's what... it's a lot on the shoulders, I think, Soav, for No Limits again to put themselves out there and to try and prove everyone wrong. I mean, they've been through the fire and the flames, right? They've been forged, it feels like, in the steels of in the hells of fire, basically.
Yeah. Once you play, your big teams, it's almost kind of a sigh of relief in a lot of ways. You get past MME, you get Sigmy Gaming, who appears to be a strong contender. If you burn out some of those early contenders, yeah, it's easy to look at the rest of the season and go, all right, the worst is over. Now we're playing middle of the pack. Now we still have a chance. And especially given how early it is, now including the patch changes, that hotfix coming through as well, this is that chance to kind of look and say, look, we've had a rough couple of matches. Let's take this. Let's learn from this. And let's use what we learned. Let's take that feed we've watched and learned from and put it and apply it. It's still really early. So an 0-2 team, like Hunter said, it doesn't, it doesn't really tell us a lot. It tells us enough that they've had a rough couple of games, but I don't think you can count out anybody at this point.
And that's what makes it so exciting, right, Twin Salty? The fact that anything is still possible, and it's all just up in the air as to who is going to be the victor here tonight.
Yeah, and we've seen it time and time again to where a team, no matter the competition, like no matter the sport even, like you see them have a rough beginning and then they can figure out the pieces very late on. Obviously, we're not too late into the spectrum yet, but No Limits have the opportunity here tonight, and especially with kind of the map pool that we have, both of these teams, at least from what we know, like to run more dive. I'm very curious to see, especially for No Limits, do they stick with their comfort and more like the dive picks that they've teased, or do they kind of shift over to the map meta from the map selection tonight?
Yeah, it's all about comfortability versus what you need to play in order to find your victory or find your win. And that's always something that excites me about new seasons when they come out, as well as when we do get sort of these hot fixes, is how do the teams adapt and what is the decision-making process that's going to be going on there. Now, so when we talk about Sigmy, they and especially their roster, or I guess rosters, it feels like, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of flexibility going on with this team.
I mean, there's two entire teams worth of flexibility on this, and I think there's like a lot of good and bad when it comes to that, right? When you look at a full team like that, we were kind of joking on pre-desk, you have 10 whole players, you have a whole starting crew, and you have a whole sub team. If you can't find a scrim, well, you just scrim internally, and that does work in the favor of Sigmy Gaming, right? You can just look, guys, we need to practice. We got a tough game coming up. Let's just call the squad. I think the other thing to this, though, is that it also keeps players really hungry in a lot of ways, right? You're constantly fighting. There's always someone kind of gunning for your spot, whether it's on a tank, on a support spot. There's always that flexibility of knowing that, the meta might dictate who gets to play time if you're like a traditional main tank versus traditional off tank, but there's always something to play for, even internally. That hunger really, I feel like, is pushing Sigmy Gaming in a lot of ways, not just in the wider rankings, but also internally, fighting for those kind of own kudos, that kind of own bravado in a way.
Yeah. And Twin Salty, on the flip side, though, No Limits again, roster. Clean and simple, right? 5 players, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing going crazy. And in fact, the head coach, the assistant manager for this team are on the team. So you're going just that extra mile, that extra step. And where we see Sigmy having this huge, giant roster, maybe the smaller nature of No Limits and that closer knit ties that you can form together may give them an edge.
There's definitely the possibility that it could, because like you said, it's not like you're overthinking it to where, hey, we need to sub in this player for map 2 if you want to run this. They may go in cold, but we'll figure it out. This team is like, all right, we have our 5. We believe in our 5 so much so that our assistant coach and our manager are also like players on the team. There has to be a lot of trust within that lineup to figure it out. And obviously the start hasn't been that great so far, but they obviously have the trust in each other. The fact that they're still together, working it out. Tonight will be a big test, though. If they fall 0-3, it's going to be a very tall mountain to climb the rest of the way.
It is, and it's we at least want that 3-2. We want to go all of the way. We want to have that map 5. And now, Hunter, you're going to be the one to tie everything neatly together in this discussion, right? Between the 10-player roster, between the 5-player roster, which, in your opinion, do you feel has that better flexibility or that better close-knit nature of your team?
The thing it mainly does come down to is a question of quantity versus quality, because definitively, if you look at it from a very blank slate, yes, it is better to have 10 players than 5 players. But the nature of having 5 players, it is a lot more of a tight-knit team. No one has to worry about not having all the playtime to themselves. Everyone does have some pressure in their own right, though. So there are positive and negatives all over the place. The real answer to that question isn't one that's definitive either, quite frankly, but in this scenario, I would give it over to Sigmy Overwatch with their 10-man roster, because at the end of the day, even if these 5 players do sit on the side, they are still listening. They are still learning in these comms in this game. Even if they don't play, they are learning something and they are getting better as a result of that. And if someone is having a bad game on the main 5, you do have someone to come in and fill that slot. So all things considered, Sigmy Overwatch should have the better roster in terms of the numbers that we have, but I'm hoping NoLimitsAgain does show that having that 5-man roster can have its benefits.
I want to jump in there. I want to jump in there. If you let me, Sam. Let me. I also want to throw out together, because, like, let's be real. Sigmy Overwatch, they're also, like, kind of looking across this. EU is a broad spectrum of teams and languages. That's a full Polish team. All 10 of them are all speaking the same language. There's no, like, language communications. That feels to me like a solid group. But I mean, I'm looking at No Limits, and they're playing. This feels like you could argue this is like a cobbled together team of whoever's left, but that does I think give you a little bit more, right? It's a team that understands. They all play together. They all speak together. There's no question of that. So I wonder if that might be an option and like a problem in it too.
A fantastic point on.
Well.
Oh my gosh, I'm loving this.
Look at it the other way, to where for the other side, they have all the chemistry in the world. They don't have to worry about subs coming in, maybe the chemistry not totally being there with that select 5. Yeah, I do agree the language barrier could definitely be an issue. I don't know how long these guys have been playing together. That might obviously change it up a little bit, but at least from a chemistry standpoint, you're not trying to figure out different play styles within your own team. You know the other 4 players you're with and how they play. But I do agree with the language point. I think both are factors.
I love this, by the way. This is my dream to eventually lead the desk into a bloodbath against each other, and I feel like we've just taken the baby steps towards reaching that. Fantastic points all around, though, and a lot of things to consider about, especially when we talk about EU in general, especially versus NA, where a lot of the sort of those trappings fall away, and you can sort of trim the fat and get a more standard story out of NA. And also one of the things that really excites me when we do step into the EU side of things. Now, we've talked actually a little bit. We've touched on the hot fixes somewhat. There's not too much, really. I think that's going to shake up the meta massively versus out of what we've been seeing. But I mean, Hunter, is it like, are these hot fixes substantial, or is it just a, something out there? Rein things back in.
I think the only thing that might be substantial in any right, in terms of what was already meta and what could be meta, kind of does come down to Zenyatta just a little bit. It may be such a minor change, but that can mean a lot, because Zenyatta was in a fantastic spot. Like, they were the definitive support to play. Now, I don't think that's specifically the case. Can you run it? Yes, you can run it. Should you run it? I don't think in every scenario anymore. I think running something akin to that Moira and Lucio might start to have a lot more value, because Zenyatta is going to have a lot less of an ability to kind of fend for themselves as they used to. And if we're talking about teams that are used to dive, that want to play dive, you are the #1 target if you are a Zenyatta.
Yeah, I've been seeing that a lot in my own competitive games. Zenyatta is just like the #1 target. It kind of has to be, right? So the Discord orb nukes you from orbit, it feels like, if you get that put on you. And then on top of that, Zenyatta in them own selves, the projectile size increase. I've said this like many times before, but they went from shooting orbs to shooting basketballs.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think there was a good quote that I've heard from somewhere else. He's not, like you said, he's not just throwing orbs; he's throwing grand pianos at that point. Really, when you look at the damage that comes through, and then tack on the fact that it's reduced now, but the HP buff that he had at that time meant that he could just aggressively go out. He didn't have to play cover like this. Now with these changes to his health is down 25. And the kick is less damage. Also, the boop from that is a lot down. It means that Zen is so much more crunchy. It means it's such easier a target to get onto and a little bit less self-sustaining. That means you either have to play back with a Lucio and babysit him more, or you just kind of have to forego it. So I do think, I think if your team's got a very experienced Zen player, maybe you could force it. But I do think, like Hunter said, you just kind of have to give it up to the Moira, who is just going to move more effectively with the team in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, right, Twin Salty, having that kind of movement to be able to get in and out and to be able to peel for yourself in instances where you do get dove upon is something that cannot be understated in these different styles of movement or in the different styles of play that we're going to get out. And obviously, we're going to see how that's going to go tonight. But yeah, I mean, the supports are really just the talk of the town, it feels like.
Yeah, I went from, oh my goodness, Zenyatta is so broken to, okay, he's getting tamed down now, which, he was throwing crit pianos at people. It was a little ridiculous. But I think now it's turned into a little bit more diverse. I think Lucio is going to be a mainstay just from a team element. It's always going to be, and the boop changes, I think, only, solidified that point.
100%.
I want to see, though, the Moira's been very popular. If we see a lot of Ramp tonight, maybe we see some BAP, or even, Alari, I think, is a sneaky pick depending on comfort with the buffs that came in. I don't think it makes her super viable, but I don't think she's the bottom of the barrel supports anymore, to where she's at least a little bit more viable depending on how comfortable you are.
All right, well, let's go ahead and I'm going to speed things up here a little bit, gentlemen, since we're starting to run short on time. I didn't even realize it because of how much fun that we've been having on the desk. So I do want to talk about the lineups real quick. So let's go ahead and touch up on these players. Starting off with Sigmy Overwatch 2, we're going to be seeing Sarian, Sinji, Grindin 24/7, Alex2389, and Marixio. And then switching over to our next lineups, which of course is going to be NoLimitsAgain. We're gonna have, oh boy. All right, let me get ready to say this name. We're gonna have Shaq Nut Sweat, Mr. Heal Your Girl, Oboe, Wink, and Woo! Jackpot. All right.
What a roster.
Once again, I want to go quick here. So we're gonna start with you, Soav. Any names popping out to you?
Oh, I mean, is it obviously not the Nut Sweat?
Please.
Come on. That's you asked for a name that popped out. No, I mean the names it's not the names to me that pops out. It's the hero choices, right? That is not a normal comp. We saw a Junkrat, we saw a Doomfist, we saw the Life Weaver. That tells me, there's a lot of unique picks that can work in the favor of a team like No Limits. That's not what you're limit testing here. If you play these off picks that no one's prepared for, you could steal a map or a win here.
Well, Hunter, are we seeing any of these maps stolen with these kind of compositions?
I think with what we have, I think it's possible. Do I think it's going to happen? Not heavily, because I do think sticking with the meta that we kind of know right now is going to be very strong. You saw Grind 24/7 and Senji on that Diva and that Tracer, respectively. In my humble opinion, two of the best characters in the game right now. I think they're extremely reliable, and I think they will prove that very much here today. But you go against some wonky stuff, you never know, right?
You never know. That's what makes Overwatch so great. Twin Salty, yay or nay, though, these teams, these choices. Just yay or nay.
I think it's going to be a nice yay, nice little counter dive may develop throughout this series if both teams do decide to run the dive.
All right. Well, we got all of this out of the way, so one more thing to go before we throw it over to our casters, and that is, of course, my favorite part of the desk, predictions.
Let's see.
Oh, hey, wait a minute. So, what's going on here?
What do you?
Wait a minute.
What do you?
What's going on here?
Look, as the only person who was right last time, when all y'all said,
oh, come on,
all y'all picked the favorite on desk.
Oh my god,
I was the one in the booth who said, I believe in the underdog, and I'm going to believe in the underdog here. I do think that there is, look, when you compare when you look at the whole big picture, they had a lot of rough matchups. This team is playing, atypical things. I think this is one of those moments where like you just catch him off guard, and maybe No Limits, just steals this. I'm gonna put my faith on it. Like I said, there's no reason to doubt me. I've been here for years. There's just no reason to doubt it. I can't be wrong.
He can't be wrong. I love
cannot be
that.
wrong.
He cannot.
Wow.
Hunter Tane, you're the one who's closest to Soab. You're still in favor of Sigmy, but you're 3-2 in favor of a Sigmy win.
Yeah, it kind of comes back to the conversation from earlier about kind of like the value of the wins and losses that you've taken so far. I mean, we would look at a team like NoLimitsAgain. They lost to MME Overwatch and over to CLSK Red, which obviously MME is MME. That the 3-0, that's respectable. It is what it is. But in their own right, the other team they faced has also had some very difficult opponents. But you look over at Sigmy Overwatch, who have faced YS Siege and Ball Mafia, both teams who are the same case right now, are 0-2 in -6 in map differential. In their own right, not good teams in terms of their standings. So this is why I'm so adamant on the fact that we could see something amazing happen here today. Do I definitively think it's going to happen? No. But do I think it can be close? 100%.
Not Twin Salty, my buddy in crime, my partner in being right, by the way. We're both sitting 3-0. Justification?
I'm just saying, I have a blank slate for my record, and I intend to start off on the right foot. But I do think that
Respect.
in the long term, I think having those subs may actually help with the meta right now and not being totally solidified after the hot patch. So I do think it is going to be a Sigmy's game.
All right, well, we've had our desk predictions, but I do want to take a quick look at the caster predictions and see where they're leaning towards right now.
Okay.
Oh!
Interesting.
Listen, I thought the desk was in
Loki
shambles.
learned.
I thought the desk was having a war, but the casters themselves. And they're going to work throughout this entire game together.
Welcome to the correct choice, Loki. Welcome to the correct team. You got it. You learned from last week. Look, that tells me that Loki is at least like taking it out, because Loki also predicted, the obvious standout team last week, and I think that this split of the lobby, this split tells me that this season in itself has been unpredictable, just like season 9 has been.
All right, well, in the Fletch saying 3-1 in favor of Sigmy, Loki in favor of NoLimitsAgain 3-1. Both of our casters expecting at the very least going to 4 maps. So I'm okay with that, but Jesse and myself are absolutely 100% right. But we are going to find out all of that and more as we are about to get into our game for this evening here in the EU PC Open Tier Division. Sigmy Overwatch 2 versus NoLimitsAgain. Throwing it over to our casters, Loki, and of course, in the Fletch.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. It's week 2 of Friday Night Overwatch, week 3 of CGL Season 13. We've got a, matchup here that our lovely desk analysts talked about for the last few minutes. We got Sigmy Overwatch 2 versus NoLimitsAgain. I am joined for this match by the incredible Loki. Loki, you ready to get this going?
Cannot be more excited, especially when I've got someone like Sov agreeing with me on the take. So we're racked up here, ready to go between these two amazing teams, both of them looking to get started out. One of them, they need to continue their momentum. Sigmy looking to continue to build on the success they have. NoLimitsAgain, however, still looking for that first signature win to break through in the beginning of the season. And this is a hell of a signature win if they can pick it up.
Yeah, and if they're going to get this first win, they got to start somewhere, and we do know the map pool here coming in to week 3. Map number 1 going to be Nepal, going to Kings Row, New Junk City, Colosseo, and map number 5 is something that
It's going to be Rialto.
Rialto.
Yes.
All right, man. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, Rialto in case you needed to, clean up the end of a series. Should be a good series coming in here. I do think that most people probably have the Sigmy pick coming through, you and Soav. One's of the strong few,
Yeah, I mean, I understand what's coming from there. I do want to say these maps give us a very interesting view of what we've been seeing. We heard the desk talking about it a little bit. Both of these teams may be pulling at the dive here a lot, and these maps do allow for that a lot of the time. Nepal especially is a great map to start out on because it gives us the view of all three different types of maps that we might see. It gives you a brawl definite map, gives you a dive definite map, and it gives you a map that's kind of good for poke, kind of good for whatever. And so whatever we're going to see from these teams, we're going to be able to get a preview of it on this Nepal map start. And then on the King's Row, a lot more brawly. Dive can come out. It's a lot harder, especially after that first point. And then once we get to New Junk, we really start looking at the JQ comp and stuff just as that. So I would love to see some more dive out of these teams. I think if we are going to see it for the most part, it's going to have to get forced on a lot of these maps all the way up until we get until like Rialto. If we're going to have to be forcing dive whenever we want to come out of it. If you want to play ball and Caliseo, you kind of can, but it's still brawl. And so a lot of these maps, I think, really ask these teams to convert away from what they might be more comfortable on and play a lot more of that map specific meta, unless they're just so good at dive that they can figure out how to play it on King's Row.
I feel like, especially on points A and C, a dive can be okay. I like Doomfist a lot on King's Row. I don't know about. I like D.Va a lot too. I think D.Va is also strong in her own right, and can be played in a variety of ways. You know, dive, counter dive, whatever you want to do. Winston, you got to be good at Winston. You have to be coordinated if you're going to play Winston, especially right now with how much damage tanks take right now. Winston has to be, within a certain degree of execution. And if you're not within that very, very small area, you're just going to get blown up. I do feel like if you're going to run a dive, it needs to be a Doomfist or a D.Va. But at the end of the day, I do think the rush with like a Ramatra or a Junker Queen, it's just a better option right now.
I think it depends. Like the name of the game right now for tanks is mitigation. It's how much damage can you mitigate, how much ability do you have to keep yourself alive and sustained without having to rely on the supports. A lot of the time prior to this patch, you could trust of, hey, I'm going to take a whole lot of damage, but it doesn't really matter. All that is my supports are going to get their ults charged up faster. They're going to be able to heal me through the situation. That's not so much the case anymore. And a lot of the times, we don't even want the supports looking at healing it much. We want them looking more at damage, at utility, at how can they help win these duels on the flanks, how can they help kill, get these kill confirms. So we don't ask them to even be looking at healing as much right now. And so the tank has to be able to do all of their own mitigation, has to be able to, take this damage in stride, figure out a way to minimize how much damage they're going to take, and survive even while still playing aggressive. That's why we see a lot more things like the Ramatra come out. He can obviously just give himself another 200 armor anytime he pleases. That's why D.Va's pretty strong right now. She has that DM that can just mitigate this damage. And that's why things like Maga, for example, are really, really hard to play right now, just because he's a big old target that doesn't really, do a great job at mitigating any of this incoming damage. So I think Winston's in a pretty okay spot for that. That bubble can do a lot, especially to isolate targets and help your team find kill confirms, which is the whole name of the game right now, is just finding the kill confirms, getting the kills on the board no matter what. So they have a really good ability there. They are still kind of a nice big round hitbox that you can shoot at pretty easily. So it can sometimes get difficult. I really do support the Winston picks here. I support the ball picks. I think dive is just strong right now. Even though we're not going to be able to see it a ton tonight. With both of these teams, we're loaded up here, ready to play dive. You saw it on the roster announcement, all of the picks they had. They wanted to play dive for the most part. And these maps don't super allow for that a lot of the time. So we're going to have to see both of them adjust, probably over to something like the Ramatra. JQ, still very, very strong on Flashpoint, obviously. But for the Brawl, a lot of times we're seeing Ramatra come out because, again, he has that super strong mitigation factor. And then sometimes we're seeing the Sigma Brawl come out when these teams want to slow it down, poke it out a little bit more, and allow their DPS to take a lot more space. They're playing the Sigma, who also still has great mitigation. He's got the super strong shield. He's got the suck that can give him up to 400 shields just for the fun of it. So he's got a lot going for him as well, especially to be setting up this Brawl with the Rock. That CC is so incredibly strong to be able to set up, once again, those other important kill confirms. So maybe we see some Sigma come out here from these teams. Maybe we probably see just a whole lot of Ramatra and a whole lot of Brawl come out. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Rhine. Europe in particular really likes aggressive Brawl comps, and they really like Rhine. They really like, running the Ramatra, even prior to coming into this meta where we had the current patch, there was a lot of EU teams playing what I called EU Brawl, EU Dive, where they would pull out the Symmetra with the Reinhardt and just dive on the backline as a whole, whole group. And they were able to take a lot of benefits with that. I don't know that we'll see that this time. I think maybe Ball does a little bit too good of a job disrupting that, but who is to say what we'll really see? At this point, it is just all speculation, but that's what I would expect.
And unfortunately, we're going to have y'all speculate a little bit longer. One of the teams is having some difficulties getting a player to get ready. So we're going to cut it to a break. And when we come back, hopefully, we will have this match between Sigmy Overwatch 2 and NoLimitsAgain up and ready to go for y'all. So stick around. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the quick break, but it does look like the teams are ready to go, and we're going to get into map number 1 here on Nepal very, very soon.
Yeah, this one is going to be super, super exciting. Nepal, as always, one of my favorite maps to see. As I said before, it gives us a wide range of those metas, of those compositions that we're going to be getting from these teams. And as we start out here on Elephant, this one is interesting. It provides a chance to play dive, a chance to play ball, if any of these teams wanted to go over that. Ball very strong here on this Elephant map, but it also does lean itself towards brawl. So this is going to show where the priorities lie between both of these teams, pretty much throughout the rest of the map. Anytime they have an opportunity, what they might be leaning to. Already, Sigmy, they're on that Ramatra brawl. We were talking so much before we were able to come into this one. Very, very traditional showing by them, and they've got the support line to match it as well. Lucio, Moira, the ever-confident support line on this patch, and then NoLimitsAgain, showing us something very different. We've got the Doomfist in. You were typing the Doomfist up before we went into this one, but then the Mercy... No Mercy, never mind. Just a little bit of bait on that one. The thing that I find the most interesting is the Junkrat. He only recently got that mini hotfix patch on Wednesday as I was. And so he's not in an amazing place, but he is significantly better than he was becoming in. The spam damage very, very strong out of him still.
All right, here we go. Nepal Shrine to open us up in this series. You see Obo off on this off angle, just trying to put those pellets to work from, the next year over. But Sarine is going to be able to take down his Shacknut Sweat, and just like that, that's the go button for Sigmy Overwatch. Without that Junkrat, that's a lot of the damage gone. They just walk it down, and now it's just Mr. Heal Your Girl who no longer there. Sigmy, pretty easy take there.
Yeah, and they do it off of the back of not only Sarian, but Grind as well, taking a lot of space and attention. You're not going to see that reflected in the ult charge, but you are going to see it reflected in the kill feed with how set up Sarian is right now.
Obo got a little bit overzealous there, did not wait, and Jackpot tried to get the peel there to get the Doomfist out. Shaq is going to be able to take down Sarian, but I mean, Sigmy already found 2 there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good pick. Like, that's the hottest DPS on this Sigmy Overwatch team, but the stall is going to come through very, very hard here. Those, you know, late picks, always so brutal to deal with, and at the end of the day, I'm not sure how much one Tracer can break through, especially when Sarian coming back from spawn and instantly finding picks.
Wink dead. That is a lot of the healing gone, and Shaq and Jackpot sent to the afterlife by Maurixio, and Mr. Heal Your Girl is able to take down Alex, but it's not enough here as, once again, Sigmy Overwatch sends No Limits packing.
Yeah, and we're starting to get to the point here where you've got to be worried about how much time is left on the table. NoLimitsAgain does have both DPS ults locked, loaded, ready to go, so double bomb action about to be coming out here, and you can already see Mr. Heal Your Girl fighting for it, but if they get caught out on this angle, they're not going to have a clean route to the pulse bomb.
No recall here for Mr. Heal Your Girl, but the peel from Alex is incredible, and Mr. Heal Your Girl cannot get away. Shaq, under pressure by Senji right now in this backline, and I mean, there's more than a couple people back here in the spawn of No Limits, but it's not going to be enough at 90% and counting. Obo is going to want to build up to this Meteor Strike. It will be Mr. Heal Your Girl that gets the touch here at 97%. Now we are in overtime. There's a couple of ultimates here for No Limits, and there's one of them out, able to take down Alex. Sound barrier comes out, Coalescence comes out, Maurixio drops their sound barrier in response. Can they find anything with all of these ultimates, though, after Alex went down? That was a lot of the healing, but it feels like they can't find anything, and what a stick by Sarian to put Shaq out of their misery. They get the flip, but it's not enough as Sigmy Overwatch proves to be the more composed and organized team. They lost one to start with, but that didn't matter. They're going to take Nepal Shrine.
Talk about being composed and organized. That was a set play there from Sigmy. They saw, hey, we're one down. Both support ults from them have gone out. So if we just get a pick, there's nothing they can do to stop us from running in right here. So they pulled back just enough to give Sarian this space they need to go around on the flank, find that pulse bomb, and you can tell that's a set play by how good the timing of it is. The moment Sarian presses Q and has the stick, everyone from Sigmy is collapsing, and you can see them rushing in there at the end of that replay. They pushed W before the bomb had even exploded. That was a definite play. Then they not only managed to get the pulse bomb pick with that, they managed to give Senji enough time to charge up their Blizzard, which is the fight-winning, in this case map-winning ult, to set themselves up. And as we go on to this next objective, neither team here really making any meaningful changes. NoLimitsAgain still looking at this Doomfist Sigma. The Sigmy still on this brawl, not wanting to go over to the poke. They want to just take this space and hold it for as long as possible.
Shaq Nut Sweat going over to the Sojourn for, you know, a little bit more long-range pick potential here as Sigmy Overwatch has moved into the No Limit side of the map. And they're finding a lot of damage. Obo is able to slam out of the fight, grabs the Mega Health Pack, and Shaq is able to drop Maurixio. Can they find this flip? And it's going over to Sigmy right now. The percentage that they've captured is slowly fading away. No Limits finally able to get back on the point. Down 2 is Sigmy Overwatch, and the trades just keep coming through. Sigmy Overwatch continues to find the picks late despite being down so many people. Pulse Bomb out from Sarian, and Maurixio is able to clean up on the damage of the explosion, but Mr. Heal Your Girl and Alex going at it, and it will be Mr. Heal Your Girl that gets the flip all alone, last man standing.
Amazing to see how long they can survive as just one little Tracer fighting against the world there. And I feel like NoLimitsAgain is looking so much better on this map with how much better their Doomfist can set things up. There's so many more walls to play off. There's all these closed spaces we can really roll in. And you can see exactly what's happening right there.
Ooh, Mr. Helio Girl able to track down Alex. You see 10 elims, 6 final blows for Mr. Helio Girl. And I mean, they're looking like a very capable Tracer in the face of, you know, someone who is, you know, playing just as well in Sayrine. And Shaq is able to get the overclock off. Maybe a little bit misguided. No, maybe it's not misguided. They're able to get a pick onto Senji here. They're not able to finish Obo in the Blizzard. Obo found the slam onto Senji, and just like that, No Limits is right back in this fight. What a turnaround there from No Limits again.
And this is a great showing by Mr. Hear Your Girl. Last time we saw Sayrine really able to control that Tracer duel. This time, Mr. Hear Your Girl much more composed with Obo and really fighting on those flanks. This is a complete turnaround, and Sayrine isn't able to do the things they were before because Mr. Hear Your Girl is marking them out so hard and already looking to get set up to do that once again with his dive.
Obo has the get out of jail free card here. That is the Meteor Strike. Throws up the hands. Does not want to use it, but will end up dropping that Meteor Strike. Finds a couple in the damage, but the sound barrier from Mauricio is going to be good enough to keep Sigmy Overwatch alive, and a massive punch sends 3 into the wall, and it'll be a trade of tanks. Coalescence from Alex is going to find a lot of value, but not enough, as Shaq is able to pop Sayrine in the chest, pulse bomb out, but Shaq is able to take out another. And just like that, No Limits again. They're looking strong here. And they're gonna get the stagger.
Yeah, and that might just do it. We're only going to see a rush to the point at this time. There's no time to set up anything else. This is way too slow, though. It's got to be Sayrine. They are going to touch, but without recall and not much force behind them, it's going to be hopes and dreams from here on out for Sigmy.
I mean, with the ultimates that No Limits again have in the bank, we see them come out here. The overclock, the coalescence, just a punctuation mark on Nepal. This one. I can't, the name of the map escapes me right now. I haven't slept much, but...
It's the one with the big hole.
Yeah, it's the whole map.
It's the whole map on Nepal. Exactly.
But I mean, what a clutch performance there by No Limits. In the extended fights, they proved to be the better team in the face of a team that was running a strong brawl comp.
Yeah, I think that really comes down to how they were setting up their dives and their flank angles there. On Elephant, they had a lot harder time in the open space, being able to play around Sayrine's movement and being able to play around the space that Grind was making for them. In that a lot more closed space with a lot more cover, a lot more defined angles, No Limits again looked a lot cleaner there. And obviously they feel confident in this comp as they're once again rolling out on it. The question on this one though, with a lot more open space, can they replicate what they did last time with how much closed space they were playing around?
Senji. And Sigmy Overwatch 2, they're going over to a similar composition. And the dive is going to be very, very strong here. They're going to jump onto Shaq. And, I mean, it's going to be rough here, but it'll be a trade. So the DPS are traded, but the punch from Grind is going to be able to put Obo... Oh, my goodness. What a flick punch there on to Mr. Hear Your Girl. And it looks like No Limits, again, will falter in the Doom Mirror this time.
Yeah, playing around this time where they can't just outmove the other team, they can't just hard play the angles and, you know, force the punches in. They're having a lot more struggles, but as Grind falls, this is an opening for Sigmy here to try and take advantage.
Oh my goodness, what a pulse bomb by Sayrine. Once again, the Doomfists are traded. The tanks go down in each other's stead, but Sayrine and Senji going to town on Nepal Village. I mean, right now, this DPS line for Sigmy Overwatch is looking scary.
Yeah, they struggled last time, where Obo was able to fight out Grind a little bit harder than they were on Elephant. This time, though, as Grind is matching Obo blow for blow, it's allowing the DPS to control the game so much more. This is already a DPS meta. We're already putting all of the hopes of the teams on the back of the DPS, and Sayrine and Senji right now are rising to the occasion.
Oh my goodness. I mean, the execution on the dive is nigh on perfect. Jackpot just had no chance. Gets hacked, gets jumped on, and I mean, the predictive punches from Grind right now are ridiculous. calling out the recall, calling out the blinks, calling out everything.
He's in their brains. He's in their walls. He's right in the back of their heads, watching their keyboards, and knows exactly where every single one of these players are going to go. Great scouting work by Senji and Sarian to help set that up as well. We need to see Shaq trying to shut down the Tracer angle, not just to help keep their team alive from the Tracer, but to cut down the intel game that Grind is really thriving off of.
And once again, it's just a fight that opens up by burning down Jackpot. The Lucio just cannot escape the grasp of Grind and Sigmy Overwatch. Mr. Heal Your Girl goes down, and it's 78%. This is dire straits here. As the EMP comes out, it hits a couple. So does the punch, and sent right back onto the map by the Fade is going to be winged, but Marixio is cleaning house. And just like that, Sigmy Overwatch looks to put Nepal Village away right here, right now. Obo will be the one to go, but cannot get away. Sigmy Overwatch falter on map number 2, but in the third hour, they get it done. They take Nepal.
And what a strong showing there right at the end. I love Senji going for the mix-up on pace. When everything is faltering, nobody on, No Limits is ready for it. Time and time again, No Limits has been allowed to come into the kill box a little bit, and then Sigmy strikes, takes them all out in one smooth move, and doesn't allow any movement past the kill box. There, Senji recognizes, hey, we've been training the team into this. We've been allowing them for this. We've got this download on the mental. Let's change up the pace. Let's find the mix-up, get this EMP when nobody's ready for it. And you can see both the Doom and the Moira thought they were safe there because they hadn't crossed over the choke yet. That entire game, Sigmy didn't engage past that choke. They always allowed just past it, used the kill box, and then came through. Great mix-up there by Senji to not use that just as a great EMP to catch the two crucial targets, but to completely catch No Limits unaware with nobody ready for that play. That is incredibly heads-up, smart play from Sigmy right now.
Yeah, I mean, and then on map number 2, right? Which name? The name still escapes me. I know the other two. I just cannot for the life of me think about what that pit map is not called.
Village, Shrine, and Pit.
Village, Shrine, and the other one. Yeah, I mean, on that map, right? It looked like a different team. No Limits did not look like the teams that we saw on Village and Shrine. I mean, they looked in sync, and I mean, especially Mr. Heal Your Girl, right? I mean, was absolutely frying on the map. And I mean, if you're going to be able to win this series, right? If you're going to be able to come back and do more, you're going to have to, rely on your DPS. Mr. Heal Your Girl, the standout for me on No Limits right now. I mean, going into King's Row, I think you keep him on Tracer. Then you go to the Doomfist. I think it can definitely work.
I'm very much of a fan right now of trying to force a little Doom kind of thing on King's Row from No Limits right now. Because they played that Doom comp on a map where we play Brawl or we play Sigma Poke and really control that high ground over the point. They broke that trend by forcing Doomfist in an area when no one is ready for it, in a closed off area with defined flank routes. That's what King's Row is. That's why we play Brawl on it, is because it has such tight corridors, it has defined corners, and it has defined flank routes that are relatively easy to counter. But the last map that we saw on that, No Limits didn't really seem to struggle with that fact. They seem to look very clean on going, hey, let's play in the closed space. Let's play in these areas that are meant for Brawl. Let's play with these flank routes and just let Mr. Heal Your Girl go off and have fun with it and really find a diff on Sarine that they weren't able to find on any other map. So I before going into this, I was like, this is a Brawl map. We're going to see Brawl. We're going to see them have to swap off what they were going with before. I have changed that opinion wholeheartedly after seeing Nepal and seeing No Limits on that pit map. That was a completely different team. And I've got to think the only big differences there was the map geometry and the way they were able to play that. So as we roll into King's Row here, you've got to start expecting maybe they pull out something that Sigmy isn't quite ready for.
I do think that it's worth noting, right, that when Sigmy went over to the Doomfist composition, they also looked entirely different from the Ramatra. They went over to that Doomfist on Village, and I mean, they snapped into place. They were locked in, and I mean, they found Jackpot out. I think 3, 4, 5 fights in a row early. I mean, the dive synergy was just there. It was ridiculous.
No, I mean the dive synergy from both of these teams is very clean right now. Like they've clearly got a good understanding of it. I think Sigmy did a better job of it on Village than we saw from NoLimitsAgain. I mean, they were able to connect and just blow up a Lucio before Sigmy had kind of any idea of what happened to them every single time. Credit to the DPS for that, for the great scouting intel game they're doing. I know we normally don't talk too much about intel in Overwatch 2, but that is a huge gift of intel there. And you could see that it was so beneficial based on, one, how fast they were able to close in on targets and blow them up, and then two, how often Grind was able to predict these punches time and time again. This is a team that is working very, very strong on the macro element and that mental element, outsmarting the other team rather than just outplaying them. As we roll into this one, we're not going to see that Doom force here from No Limits as much as it pains my heart. They are going to rock into the Junker Queen here, which Junker Queen's in an interesting place right now. She's still really good on Flashpoint. She can sometimes struggle in these situations, however, as her sustain and her ability to hold space isn't as good as something like the Ramatra. NoLimitsAgain, though, has counteracted that by putting Wink on this Lifeweaver, so Obo can just commit as hard as they want to, and Wink will always have the ability to pull them right back out and save them. So Sigmy's not going to have to just win one engagement on this tank. They're going to have to win two.
All right, well, here we go. The Junker Queen rush of No Limits into Sigmy Overwatch's very, very traditional Ramatra brawl here. And they're going to go on the aggressive, and a beautiful, picture-perfect wall by Senji to send Jackpot right back to the spawn room. And, you know, No Limits, they're just not going to be able to get it done here.
Yeah, not finding what they want to. Not too much of a worry. It's still first fight, and they are playing that Junkrat. So if they can just stay close and keep the pressure on, they'll find a lot of benefit there, especially now that Obo has a line on the back line. But Shaq's going to go before we even get moving.
Yeah, Obo, you know, blocked, body blocked, able to get around and pulled by Wink. So going to stay alive here, but Shaq going down there is a lot of the burst damage. They're relying on the Junkrat to try and find a pick, as Saren, you know, just being a little annoying right now. It does, you know, counter out a lot of healing, and another beautiful wall to kill Obo. I mean, the sleep is going to come through onto Grind, but No Limits, they're just getting shoved out.
We talk about Brawl as a managed aggression comp. Obo here is on an unmanaged aggression comp, and you know what character is great for countering that out? Mei. And Senji is doing an amazing job piloting her, calling out Obo every single time. But here, as Siren falls early, that might be the opportunity No Limits needs to be able to get in without their backline in danger.
Ball comes back out, and Coalescence from Alex as well, and they lose their Tracer. But as it stands, this fight is still very much winnable for Sigmy Overwatch as Sayrine returns. The Riptire is able to drop Senji down, and this is going to be scary with the Tree of Life on the field. A lot of overhealth and a lot of healing out from that ultimate that the Lifeweaver's got. But Sigmy Overwatch are going to comfortably have another retouch here. Barrier out from Mauricio. The Annihilation immediately canceled out. As can they take down Grind? They can. It's a big Blizzard taking out 2 right now, but they can't finish the kills. They do end up taking down Mr. Heal Your Girl, but it will not be enough. The Blizzard is for naught, and No NoLimitsAgain finally break through on A.
I want to know what happened to that Annihilation field, because it disappeared. You get 3 seconds of that regardless of what happens. I'm not sure they got 1 second of Annihilation field there. Yeah, but like, why would you?
I think they might have accidentally hit Q twice.
Oh no, that's a brutal, because that Annihilation field was exactly what they needed to take the space and try and set themselves up back on a point that was handily in terms of No Limits there to set up the Blizzard.
That's not good. Obo gonna get caught out again by Sigmy Overwatch. It's just a brutal circumstance to be in when you want to be aggressive, but the enemy team just won't let you.
Yeah, I mean, this is Sigmy Overwatch right now has the perfect way to deal with the aggression that No Limits is putting out right now, and Senji is the person driving that. You can see 6 elims already on the board. I think only 1 death from them, so that's a really good ratio here, especially as they're able to call out all of these aggressions, and once again, they get out the offensive abilities.
There we go. Jackpot throws out the amplification matrix and is able to push Sigmy back with the death of Marixio. They will, of course, get aggressive, and Senji is going to be watching for it. There you see Obo watching out, now playing a little bit more gingerly. Coalescence out from Alex. They cut off the Genji. Mr. Heal Your Girl so low, and the Riptire will take down Marixio, but the pushback from Sigmy Overwatch is going to be, you know, twofold that No Limits can do here, as a great pull from Wink to get Shaq out of the fight, but it will not be enough to win the fight.
I worry for No Limits' pace and timing here and consistency, because all of their fight wins have come off the back of Shaq getting a pick before we even get going, which is great. It's what you love from your Junkrat, that's why you play them, but you can't win a map just off of that note. You have to be able to win these fights through macro, and No Limits right now is just not able to find an entry into Sigmy Overwatch as a team.
There we go. Shaq is able to take it down Bayron. So, okay, there we go. Both DPS down and out for the side of Sigmy Overwatch. Going to be able to cut down Grind. Unfortunately wasted the dash that came with the kill on the Grind, but the push will be pretty good here for No Limits.
An expensive fight, though. I mean, you're using Tree there, which is a fight-winning ult, and Blade, which is absolutely huge, into the team of Sigmy. Now Marixio has a free beat to deal with Obo's JQ ult whenever they press it, and that is going to be massive in what can hold this third-point fight.
Here we go. Oh, no!
No!
Going to use the Rampage, but frozen out immediately. Has 1 minute remaining on the clock. You need to get out here. If you're No Limits, you can not die. Obo did not. Wink did. Now is the time to disengage, No Limits. You throw out the Amp Matrix, but it's just not going to be enough. You need to know when enough is enough.
Yeah, and this is just taking more and more time off the clock. Nobody going to be able to have a great touch here. They had another fight in the bank had they died early, but not going to happen. And this is why that ult economy matters and using it all properly matters. They had the JQ ult to at least force out the beat. Now that's off the table. There's not a single ult that No Limit has that can get rid of the beat that Sigmy does. And so Sigmy is free to use this as a tempo beat to just keep everyone alive and to full commit to this fight. They don't even have to worry about third point. The sustain is there, and it's going to get them a blizzard on the back of it.
Everything going to come down to Shaq's Riptire, but they cannot even press the button. Pummeled down by Grind. And, I mean, Mr. Heal Your Girl is going to be able to drop Senji there. Not even going to need the Blizzard, though, as it's just Jackpot and Wink left on the point. It's not going to be at the end of B, but it certainly is a very winnable position for No Limits here on Streets.
So right at the end there, what you saw, why everyone overcommitted way onto the back of the Mei and left their core open a little bit, was because Senji was doing such a good job charging that Blizzard. They were right about to have it, and No Limits knew, hey, if they charge that Blizzard, we're done. And they're going to be able to have the sustain to charge it if they use that beat. So we have to overcommit onto the Mei and try to get that pick before this starts if we're going to have any chance of capping the point. Problem is, Sigmy knew that too. So they knew, hey, they're going to overcommit here. The moment we see them step in, we can overcommit onto their back line. We're going to have the beat helping us out. There's no way to punish us when we have all that overhealth. And they can't even punish the aggression because they're all way overcommitted themselves. So we can just work to trade out our backline for theirs and keep our Mei alive as long as possible and trust in Senji that they have the ability to continue to pull attention, continue to pull focus, and continue to pull everybody else away for No Limits and open up the entire playing field. Once again, Sigmy is winning this through the mental game. They are outsmarting opponents to find these consistent victories time and time again. And as we roll into this next match, Sigmy is actually pulling a notebook out of No Limits, and No Limits is pulling one out of Sigmy's. They've got the Ramatra Brawl on defense, the Junker Queen on attack. Now, Grind needs to do what Obo couldn't. Be aggressive in a sustained way to find fight wins with macro.
Well, here's aggression for you, if you ever wanted it. But Sayrine on the Sojourn, going to be able to drop Jack to the dirt, and just like that, I mean, that is probably more than likely going to do it for point A.
Why would we ever think that Sayrine wouldn't perform on any character they played? On to the Sojourn now, and it looks just like it was when they were on the Tracer. Everyone from Sigmy Overwatch gets a great fight there. And the ult economy actually bad because they got so good of a fight. They weren't able to let No Limits recontest. They weren't able to let them get any healing up. And so as a result, they only have about 30% in the ult charge.
Here goes Tenji, wants to get aggro here in the Ravenous Vortex. Cannot get away, burned down by the focusing beam of Mr. Steal Your Girl. It will be a trade though. Obo does go down here, and look who it is in the kill feed again. Sayrine gonna be able to find a couple here. The Sojourn, the Tracer, doesn't matter. Sayrine can do what you need. Mr. Heal Your Girl just needs to get out alive.
Yeah, I don't know if they have an amazing opportunity to here, as everyone's kind of marking them down. They've got the Lucio. Oh, never mind. No Lucio helping them out whatsoever, and that's going to be all they need. And those staggers are absolutely insane. Keep in mind, Sigmy doesn't have to full cap this map. They just have to full cap streets, and they're pushing to get the space to do so right now before the fight's even begun. They're not even fighting full teams. Right now, they're exactly where they need to be, as if this card was taking its final route. Usually on street space, if you're the defense, you're trying to get 3 or 4 fights. No Limits is going to be lucky to get 1 here, as they try and stop this card from capping.
Here we go, one more fight, overclock, and Kitsune Rush invested by Sigmy Overwatch. The Junker Queen comes back out from Obo, but it will not mean much of anything. It's got to be a touch from Wink and Jackpot. Wink falls and Jackpot more than likely going to follow here. Rampage as a celebration from Sigmy Overwatch 2. I mean, what else can I say but dominance here on King's Row?
Yeah, I mean, that's just amazing play by Sigmy, especially on that defense. They're able to find out the win conditions for No Limits, and they're able to punish it time and time again with no fear on their end. And then on their attack, they're able to push advantage more than anything else. They look so clean. Anytime they have any sort of advantage, whether that's in resources, in character, in space, in fight win, because you get 2 huge staggers, Sigma is doing everything they can to maximize that value. And it's showing up. You saw No Limits have to go through Archies. They had to win that fight. They had to win another fight on the corner. And then they had to take another fight trying to cap into 3rd point. How many fights did No Limits take? Maybe half of one, with everyone from No Limits trying to rush back in and get to the point. And that's because they had such a good fight on 1st point. They were able to capitalize on No Limits' mistakes in that advantage state and push that even more. And then they pushed it all the way to this point. That is a great showing of Sigmy understanding their advantage, how they need to play it, and how to maximize the value from every single one of their wins. And so they didn't have to take a whole lot of fights. They didn't have to worry about, oh, how do we get these ult charge? How do we get through the, these brutal street face corners? How do we get through one of the best choke points in the game? All they got to worry about is how to take space and hit shots. And dang, is Sigmy good at hitting shots.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you like to look at, passing the eye test, right? But right now, the numbers simply don't lie, right? I mean, as it stands, No Limits, right? They're fine. They're mechanically good at the characters that they're playing, but it's the decision making. It's everything else that Sigmy Overwatch 2 just has down pat. They know what they want to do. They know when they want to do it, and they know when to do it. I mean, they know when to get aggressive. They know when to back off. Something that I have noticed that No Limits, again, just refuses to do. They do not disengage. So, I mean, moving forward, they need to learn how to disengage if they want to be able to capitalize on their, clearly very capable mechanical skill.
Yeah, I mean, they even played around a comp that relied kind of on disengaging a little bit without Lifeweaver and the Junkrat. You're trying to maximize the fight. You're trying to take them as long as possible. They allow your Junkrat to do damage, allow the Junkrat to continue to pump in resources. And they just never took the disengagement part of that. Like, you want those fights to go long. You want to take them as far as possible. And No Limits, they're just not able to find that disengagement, even with the Lifeweaver helping them out. So I really start to worry about them in any fight that's just not won on the engagement. We saw on that Streets phase, on all of Kings Row actually, the only time they won fights was when they won that engagement off the back of their Junkrat. And as I said, you can't always count on that. Like, that's not always going to happen. You've got to be able to find picks a different way out of just the first 3 seconds of the fight. And right now, No Limits just isn't able to.
Yeah, right. No Limits needs to make the adaptations. They need to make the changes, whether it's a compositional change or a mentality change. I don't know. I'm not in their heads. I don't know what's going on in their comms. So it's up to them to make the changes that they need to make. But we're going to cut to a break, and when we come back, we're going to see if No Limits can get it together on New Junk City, so stick around.
Got lots of love. Love. 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 Got lots of love. Love.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sigmy Overwatch 2 up 2-0 over No Limits again. Real quick, we're gonna get a look at a head-to-head on King's Row between Grind and Oboe. Yeah, the numbers, like I said earlier, they speak for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, this is astounding. And the major thing there is that bottom stat line, the deaths. Damage, relatively even, but everything else is changed by that final line, that deaths per 10. And it is massive there. This is coming off the back of not only Grind being able to play well, but it shows how much attention they're pulling as a team and how much their DPS are able to help them on this notion. You rely on your DPS to be able to make space for you to help take away some of the attention from the tank so that you can continue to be aggressive and push in. The fact that their deaths is so low and the final blows is so high, almost 1 per minute, shows you that they're not just kind of standing there hanging out, letting the DPS take the charge. No, they are involved, putting out damage, putting in pressure, forcing the other team to a bad situation, and the DPS and their supports are helping them out in that push. Grind is able to keep fights fast, they're able to keep fights going, they're able to keep fights super aggressive off the fact that it is an entire team nature that they are leading. They are pushing the pace of the game, forcing Oboe to play their pace, and Oboe right now just cannot keep up with what Grind is doing.
Yeah, and I mean, right now the pace of play, it's just faster. Sigmy is very, very decisive. They know what they want to do, and I'm interested to see what they want to do as we get into map number 3. We have Sigmy is substituting out 60% of their team right now.
Yeah,
we've
got kind of a full deck swap.
Yeah, we've got Voina in for Senji, Senju in for Seirine, and Ayahana in for Alex. I'll get a quick look at that graphic real quick. Yeah, I mean, okay, I guess I lied about Senji. It's Voina in for Seirine. But yeah, I mean, they're changing basically everything about this team right now. So I'm interested to see what kind of stuff they're gonna break out on New Junk City.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against it. If there's going to be a change, I got to make it now rather than later. You don't get another chance after this one. And Flashpoint is such a different map from every other map type in the game that I feel like it's pretty reasonable here to have very aggressive swaps coming into this map. It's, you might have players that are only good on Flashpoint. They're only good playing the Flashpoint comp. So you want to get them in now so you can change things up as they go. And Sigmy here, on that change, both of these teams played JQ on King's Row, but only one of them succeeded on it. That was Sigmy Overwatch. And now with these changes, hopefully Voina and Ayahana all warmed up, ready to go here. Keep the aggression strong for this Sigmy team because they are 3 flashpoints away from being able to close this one out and mark another win in their so far flawless record.
Here we go. It's going to be Arena up first. Shaq gonna take a lot of damage right off the rip as Sigmy Overwatch was just able to get there significantly faster, and with Wink going down, the floodgates are gonna open. Grind gets the trade, though it just won't be enough as Jackpot, wow. Senju comes in and, Seirine was on that Tracer, but Senju proving more than capable coming in off the bench on this Tracer. That was some great tracking.
Yeah, very, very well done by them. And that's going to put Sigmy off to the start in the races already. That point captured. And Senju, 75% to Pulse Bomb. It has been one fight, and a quick fight at that. Senju right now is completely uncontested on these flanks. There's not anyone who can stop them in the support line. With Mercy, Lifeweaver, none of them can duel for themselves either, so Senju is just completely uncontested.
Ayahana is so low, but they cannot follow up, and there we go. Finally, the grenade lands at the feet of Ayahana. They're able to take down the Kiriko. Can they kill Voina? 27 HP, a great Gracie there from Oboe to put the Genji down, and finally No Limits can find, they're gonna find an opening here.
Yeah, I mean, they managed to get the spam off the Junkrat. That's how they did well in King's Row. That's how they're doing well now. Doing, just enough damage to open themselves up prior to Sigmy being able to cup in. The way that Sigmy needs to, dispute this is by just playing it so aggressively that Junker doesn't have any time to get set up.
Here we go. Shout is out from Grind. Already that extra supplemental health is gone. But Shaq is able to put Senju away. They're going to use this Riptire in tow in trade of the Dragon Blade. They're not going to be able to find anything, but I mean, the trades are coming through left and right for these teams. Can they take down Ayahana, who's on the point? It's going to be Wink who throws out the Tree of Life, and they're able to take down Maurixio. This is a perfect opportunity here for NoLimitsAgain to try and grab some momentum.
One fight territory left on this point. If Sigmy even wants to go for this fight, it won't be a strong one. They're going to have to dive onto the point to get the touch, and you can see them kind of debating whether they want to or not right now, getting this Lucio aim with only 10%. It's not going to be clean. It's going to have to be a big ult here from Grind and Ayahana.
There we go. Rampage is out from Obo. Or not Obo, but Grind, and Obo gets immediately taken down. Grind is able to throw the axe straight through Wink, and it's going to be a 4 versus 3 now, and this is not going to look good for No Limits anymore. And at 90%, it will be Sigmy Overwatch 2 that is going to take Arena.
Something to think about as well. Not only can that backline of Mercy Lifeweaver not really protect against the Tracer out on the edges, it also can't stop the JQ ult. Lucio is a must play on Flashpoint, not just because it can get you between these sites faster, but also because it's the real one ult that does a good job of countering out JQ ult. Without the Lucio beat, JQ ult is a fight-winning ult just all on its lonesome, and Grind shows exactly why there. They didn't even have to use Ayayan's Gate to rush. They just were able to sit back, rely on Grind, and then follow up with that aggression.
And Obo is stuck in no man's land. The cleanse, though, from Ayahana stops the self-healing. The bleed goes away, and Obo just tried to make a hero play, but it ended up being for nothing. I mean, they're going to get this first 10% or so, but it's not going to mean very much because Obo used the Rampage to no effect.
I mean, I love off-meta stuff, but there's a meta for a reason, and you're seeing why right here. There's just so many tools that Sigmy has to deal with whatever No Limits might do, especially on the JQ side. And your tank has to have so much presence in these games. And right now, Obo can't find any. It's not just because Grind is playing so well. It's because everyone else on Sigmy has the tools to deal with them. So far, Obo hasn't been able to find an entry because there's 3 people on Sigmy that can make their life incredibly hard.
I mean, the Kitsune Rush is out from Ayahana. The sound barrier out from Maurixio is going to be good for stopping the Dragon Blade. I mean, it's just the great decision-making of Sigmy Overwatch that is leading to them taking this point right now. I mean, Refinery is going to go over to Sigmy Overwatch as the time continues to tick.
No fight left here on this one, and it's going to have to be regrouped, go for the next. If they are going to fight here, it's going to be down 3 members, and that might just stagger them for the next point. They're thinking about it very wisely, however, they're not going to engage. They're going to put all their hopes and dreams on that final point. One last one for the ages, as No Limits still not any ults in their backline. The most they're going to have are those support ults. Tree, amazing. Mercy Valkyrie, a little bit harder to work with a lot of the time. Meanwhile, Sigmy Overwatch is once again locked and loaded with Senju. That Tracer on has always been good for Sigmy, finding these pulse bomb sticks. But then the major one, JQ ult, it won a whole point on that last time they used it. Here, let's see if they can't replicate that.
Throwing out Gracie is Grind. Not going to find a target just yet. And the Genji duel begins as Senju. There we go, the target that you needed to find if you were going to use Pulse Bomb. It does get canceled out by the res, though, so Wink is still in this fight. It's a 1-for-1 trade. Can Grind find anything significant here? They hit Obo. Can they clean Obo up? They will do just that, and before the fight had finished, Sigmy had captured the point, and they're already at 30%. They invest the Tree of Life on point from No Limits again.
Gotta win this fight.
I mean, you have to, but it doesn't look like there's going to. The numbers are so heavy in the favor of Sigmy, but the Dragon Blade is going to be what cuts them down. They invest heavily and it pays off, but for now anyway, they get the point.
I mean, you got to win that fight. Is really what it comes down to. Like, you don't win that fight. It went on for so long, and Sigmy got such a good cap that you don't get another touch there. So, really good decision. Ambitious, gambling, high-stakes decision there by Wink to invest the tree. But it does end up working for them, working out. Now, though, nothing to fight against this blade!
But the pull from Wink saves the Mercy's life. Jackpot able to stay alive as the I mean, the Rip Tire is going to come out, but I mean, Shaq is the one that pulled that fight out of nothing. And, I mean, the pull from Wink on the Dragon Blade, no slouch either.
Yeah, and this great play by Blue Jackpot as well to know, hey, I've got to pull this blade away from the rest of my team. I've got to get space so that, you know, Shaq and everyone else can find what they need to onto the Genji. So they deliberately go that kite around away from the rest of the team, cut around the wall to get back in the line of sight. Great micro movement there to keep themselves alive.
All right, Wink is able to keep Obo alive. The Pulse Bomb is going to come out at the fleet of Obo, and I mean, it's going to be too much for the Junker Queen to overcome. No res in sight. Well, the res now is going to be nothing but an ult charging. I mean, Obo is going to invest, and maybe smartly so, maybe not. I mean, you've got to make a play, because if you lose that fight there, I mean, it's just not going to be anything, and I don't think that they're going to get another touch.
It's going to be an ambitious one, to tell you the least. They are getting a Sombra on point, so just that, but I don't know that anyone else really has a great touch behind it.
All right, Obo gets the slam onto the point, but with Jackpot going down, this is looking more and more dire by the second. Rampage only hits Shaq, but it doesn't matter if it only hits one target. The Dragon Blade, you know, bringing out the pet just for celebration. Sigmy Overwatch dominate the series 3-0 over NoLimitsAgain. I mean, from start to finish, they had a plan and they executed.
Yeah. This is clean. This is clean all throughout there by Sigmy. Time and time again, they're able to step up, completely outsmart No Limits, completely win on that flank game and on that, you know, tank diff experience they were throwing out. I mean, they pitched a straight shutout, it felt like, this entire game. Scoreboard, it's a massive difference between these two teams. It is really what it comes down to, even in the numbers. We talk a lot of times about, like, oh, you know, the numbers don't show what we're looking for here. They absolutely do. Sigmy Overwatch is rolling out time and time again, and as a result, they're able to cap things off in an extremely good way. So, congratulations to Sigmy, playing well mentally, playing well in the mechanics, playing well in the macro. They've got the mix-ups locked down. This is a team right now that is firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't like kicking a team while they're down as we get a look at those final stats for New Junk City. I mean, it showed in the numbers, right? I mean, they did a lot of damage on the side of NoLimitsAgain, but, you know, they just died too much. They died too fast. And I just got to say that they looked at their worst when they were on the Junkrat. I didn't like the Junkrat pick at all. I think they looked at their best when Mr. Heal Your Girl was on the Tracer and Shaq was on the Sojourn. I mean, the only point that they got all series, the only points they got were off the back of a Tracer Sojourn. And they just switched it up for no apparent reason, where a Tracer Sojourn would have been, you know, potentially their best pick. And they got punished for trying to go to these niche off-meta characters that aren't particularly good. And I mean, I respect the pick from Shaq to go over to the Junkrat to try and get the silly guy. to work. But I mean, at the end of the day, Junkrat is bad.
He's not great. He's not
Junkrat is. That's giving Junkrat too much credit. Junkrat is B-A-D. All 3 letters are capital. Junkrat is terrible right now. And, you know, they got some
they
of
made
those
it work
picks.
a little bit.
They got some of those picks, but I mean, that's just the nature of Junkrat, is you're eventually going to find something. But it's something that I've said, you know, since I started casting, right? You can't win championships off moments. And the moments that Shaq had were okay, I guess, finding the random picks here and there on the Junkrat, but that's not going to win you games. You said it earlier in the series. Those random pickoffs with the junk spam, they're just not going to be good enough to win games, especially against a team as good as Sigmy Overwatch.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great addition when you can play that kind of stuff. Like, it really is. It's a great thing to have. It's a hat on a hat. It makes things better. It makes things, you know, you can continue to push your advantage. It gives you fights where you don't have to use a whole lot of ult, so you can still take the fight win. Like, it's a great addition to have to the rest of the team. But you have to be winning in the neutral, and you have to be winning off of the macro on the back of it. No Limits did a great job anytime they did find that advantage. Anytime they did get one of those early picks in the Junkrat, they found success. And they found more success than they did on almost anything else other than that pit map on Nepal. But at the end of the day, the team that had the macro lockdown, that had the team diff lockdown, that was able to outsmart, outcompete, and outplay their opponents, it is Sigmy Overwatch, who, I mean, they really are firing all cylinders. This is a car that is gassed up and nitro punched, ready to go. With that, though, we are going to go ahead and throw it to the desk to take you out of this one. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Loki. That is In the Fletch, and we will be seeing you again soon.
It's Sanctum.
Sanctum! Sanctum is the map. They did well at Sanctum.
Have a good night, everybody.
Masters, In the Fletch, and of course, Loki. Welcome back, everyone, to the desk, though, where we just got done with a 3-0 spectacular in favor of Sigmy Overwatch. And Jesse, I know you're all the way over there, buddy, but I got to give you the highest. I got to make sure I'm on the right. Highest of high fives.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Our predictions were right. So, listen, I respect what you put out there for No Limits. I love you for rooting for the underdogs, but I mean, Sigmy was just playing on another level today, it felt like. Tonight.
No, look, I mean, Sigmy took the 3-0, and it was a well-deserved. They absolutely were the better mechanical team. But I'd argue that No Limits had the 3-0 in most fun with the heroes they had and their ability to play the heroes they wanted. You saw quite a variety from Movio and Shaq, who really tried to, adapt, and I respect that. I think that for as much as you can kind of tell that they were, just kind of like, maybe they wrote this one off. Maybe again, it's just like it felt like an unwinnable match. There were moments of brilliance for this No Limits squad. I don't take back my pick. I think they went 3-0 in fun today, if nothing else.
And hey, right? You were also kind of leaning in that 3-2 camp. It was still Sigmy at the end of the day, but you thought that No Limits would have just a little bit more fight in them to be able to take us to that map 5. Not to map 5, but we did see some fight out of this team, especially when you look at Nepal, the Sanctum sub-map.
I mean, yeah, 100%. Like, we had this point where we were talking as things were going in that first map, that things were starting to look a little bit even. We saw where these strengths were coming out for No Limits. Just the unfortunate part is we got to these brawl maps like you're seeing here on King's Row, where there was just this domination. Grind was just not going down as the Ramatra, and you had Senji on the Mei that was walling off Oboe every single time. So even if No Limits was truly coming together, they were getting cut off at every turn, so they just could never get proper momentum on their side. And we definitively saw that once they got on the attack, and they just could not stop Sigmy in the slightest after that.
No, they couldn't. I mean, Twin Salty, it was a non-stop momentum gain, and we're seeing it here off of the replays, right? We're looking at the DPS player Sarian on the Sojourn, and then over here we have Sinju, who's been showing up in force on the Tracer. And I mean, Sigmy, even on map number 3, replaced 60% of their roster, right? And we're still feeling like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, no, we were kind of talking about it backstage when those subs got made. We're like, this is either just for a comp on this map, or they're trying to get some of their subs some playtime. I do think it was a mix of both. I think they're obviously still very comfortable with that JQ rush on this map, but I think Sigmy felt like, you know, the ball was in their court, and they felt pretty confident that they were going to be able to finish it off. There was times where No Limits, like, they looked decent in some of these fights, but we talked about it back here. The concentration and the target focus wasn't always there, and it really bit them hard.
And here we take a look at the map poll, the full history of what happened tonight. And of course, it is going to be that 3-0 once again from Nepal to Kings Row, all the way in to New Junk City. It was Sigmy Overwatch 2 the entire way through. Soav, right? This is just... We were saying at the very beginning of the desk when we first started, right? Sigmy been having kind of an easy time going into this, and that NoLimitsAgain were put through a lot of trials and tribulations here. But I think now that we're wrapping up week 3 here for Sigmy, we're starting to get, okay, this team maybe is one to really keep an eye out on.
Oh, I agree. I mean, we kind of joked backstage, we're bringing in our bench warmers for game 3 in some ways, and if that's what your bench looks like, I think you are a scary team. I think you've proven it. Like, we initially, when they pulled 3 of arguably their best talented players and just said, let's bring in our subs and let's get them some playtime, they still looked a pretty dominant force. I think if you are anybody watching this match, Sigmy looks like a team you have to prepare for. And how do you really prepare for that? You didn't see too much variation in the bench, but I think what you did see is that every single player is a part of that machine. Kind of like Loki said, that machine is running on all cylinders. That's got super premium in it, and them tires are fresh. They're ready to hit the ground no matter who they are, and they are ready to just make it to the finish line.
Speaking of what our caster said before we move on here, because we had Fletch gave us a little interesting opinion on Junkrat, and if I remember the 3 letters correctly, BAD.
Look, I'll take it. I'll take the fight because I was the first one to call him out. Fletch, you're wrong. You should feel bad. All right? Look, Junkrat is not in a great state. He did get buffs in the recent patch, though. Let's be real. I think if that's your character of choice and you're a high-ranking Junkrat player, you understand that this is a boon. I just think that the matchup didn't favor you in Junkrat, and I think you got to fine-tune some pieces. I think, Fletch, you're just a hater. I'm going to say it right there.
Ooh.
Okay.
Hunter Tane, Jesse,
Wow,
I need opinions on this. What are you thinking?
Oh God! Sorry,
Oh!
No, just because of that. No, I'm in the exact same camp. No, Junkrat is bad. Fletch, your opinion, it is technically right. I'll be right with you. He is bad. He's very bad. I think it could have worked in some realm, but it was what you were running with that kind of just made it even worse off. Like, Shaq did good in their own right. Did fine in the Junkrat. Did a lot for their team. Just wasn't going to work in that environment with who you were going up against, and especially what you were running the Junkrat with. I think maybe if you were to run that BAP Lucio, even Moira Lucio, could have worked. It just didn't, and I don't want to see it again. I'll be real with you. I'd rather not see it again that same way.
Yeah, I'm right in the same boat. It's like, as much as I like Junkrat, like my twin plays him all the time, like he's bad. he's so bad right now. Like we even saw it on Nepal to where when Shaq went Soj, there was immediate change and they were playing infinitely better when they had the Soj in play instead of the Junk because there was actual pop-off potential instead of hoping and praying. So I love Junk. I think he's great, but in the game he is not right now. He's just
I'm a perennial Junkrat hater, so every time I see Junkrat,
then.
this is my clubhouse. Every time I see Junkrat, my blood boils and I see red. So
I'm surrounded. I get it. I'm surrounded. I'll take that. That's fine.
So we still love you, but my opinion of you did lower just a little bit,
Understandable. Have a great day.
Wow.
All right, so we do have an MVP, of course, to crown, and this one was not easy, gentlemen. This one took a lot of deliberation, and what made it even funnier was like, all right, we'll take a look at map 3, and that'll really give us our deciding factor on who is going to be our MVP. And then Sigmy was like, all right, let's take out all 3 of the choices for the MVP that we were that the desk was thinking of choosing. But at the end of the day, we eventually did settle on one particular player who we really felt just shined. And especially when you look at the stat line, that player being none other, of course, than Alex, the support. I'm going to go and I'm going to say this word with high praise. God themselves. My goodness gracious, Hunter. the stats coming from this one support alone.
Yeah, I think back on King's Row, I think it was like equivalent of like 13,000 healing. I think they also only had 2 deaths at the time. Just consistently a force to keep their DPS alive, to never die as well, because, you know, we talk about how, like, we compared to, like, Merrick's, who was dying a lot early, that was dying in weird scenarios, but just having that constant fixture from Alice who can keep everybody up and do so consistently, that is super important for a team. So that's all you just love to see out of Kiriko, because sometimes they're not always having that dog within them, but Alex 100% did today.
Oh, yeah. Twin Salty. I mean, you think about your support, right? You think about, okay, they need to be healing, but they also need to be doing the DPS. They need to be living. They need to be juggling all of these different factors. And Alex was just doing all of it, was doing everything, it felt like. And but when Hunter brought up the 13,000 healing, more than the enemy team's supports combined, right? That's insane to think about.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. The fact that, yes, they were on, I think they were on Moira about 6 minutes of that game. They're on Kiriko about 3, but still, you got more than the combined of the opposite team. That should not be happening unless you were popping off to an extreme degree. And the fact that, yes, they had 2 deaths. That was it. That was the big reason. Even in the fights that, yes, they got staggered out a little bit, they always got out. They kept their team alive, and they were building those ults so quickly. We saw so many coalescence, so many Kitsune rushes. That is what kept them in those fights, especially when No Limits, once in a while, they'd have their good fight. It'd be the punch right back.
Yeah, and so right, it wasn't, like I said, though, there was 2 other people that were in contention for the MVP spots, and that was both of the DPS as well, Sinji and Sarian. They were once again, another tough conversation that needed to be had, because we felt like they were still able to bring a lot to the team, and they were all performing at just that high level, especially when you look towards some of the combinations of the ways that, let's say, for instance, Sinji was getting into the backline, was messing up with everything, and then Sarian on the Mei was really causing those kinds of chaos in the ice wall, and how they were able to isolate and let the rest of the team descend upon their prey.
Yeah, like you said, the flexibility amongst those players to know not just what their role needs to do, not what just their hero needs to do, but put it all together, then add in the flexibility, knowing where you need to dive with Tracer or where you need to be. It really did make it hard. And I think to even kind of echo that back, you know, Alex, again, you know, why we ended up on Alex is because without a support to really back up those DPS and make sure they go in and support them in those moments, your DPS do tend to shine, to kind of fumble and struggle. So they looked great because they had a great pillar underneath them. And yeah, there's another world where if one of those 2 had stayed in and they didn't get pulled out in game 3, we'd probably be looking at them as an MVP status. But I do think that in the whole of the story, they were phenomenal. Alex just absolutely was one of the 2 primary pillars that kept those DPS and tank looking good.
It's a shining star, something to point to for all supports to look at and be that guiding light that helped to take their team to that victory. So a big congratulations to Alex2389 on getting the MVP. And of course, a big congratulations to Sigmy Overwatch 2 on their victory 3-0 against No Limits again tonight in week 3 of the EU PC Open Tier Division. Now, we are going to start closing things out, but before we do, I want to get some last second thoughts here from our desk before we let them loose into the world where they do their own bits of chaos for sure. We'll start off with you, Twin Salty, one of the new members on the desk. I'd love to get your final thoughts.
Yeah, we talked about it pre-game. It was going to be a matchup depending on comfort versus what is actually good on that map. And we just saw that No Limits, they stuck to their guns and it didn't work out. And I'm really excited to see how Sigmy over these next few weeks, if they really are that true contender to MM3 that we really think they can be.
Absolutely. And hey, Soev, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I love seeing the influx of these players, and I think a team like Sigmy coming in and giving, you know, these dogs that have been around forever, MME, Overwatch, and a lot of these higher players, you know, still maintaining these 3-0s says, I think, an incredible amount about not just Overwatch in general, but also particularly this EU pool right now. There's so much stacked talent within these 4 pools that, you know, playoff time is going to be incredible when we get there in a few weeks.
And Hunter, week 2 of being on the desk, right? We've been experiencing the highs and the lows of Overwatch 2. Any final thoughts?
I mean, with the way we're standing right now, obviously, we can't talk very definitively about how the season's going to end, but I did take my time to make a quick look before we got into this. And MMA and Sigmy Overwatch 2, who at this moment look like two of the best teams in their respective group, they in fact do not face each other in regular season. They're the only people that they're not going to face. So there is an amazing storyline we could have here down the line at potentially two undefeated teams going into either the mid-season playoffs or even definitively, if we're looking way far down the line, maybe that is the two you're looking at potentially for that grand finals matchup and an undefeated thing. We don't know. It's a possibility. We got to have storylines here. It's entirely possible, but I'm really excited to see when these two teams finally clash with each other. Probably won't be till the mid-season playoffs, but when it happens, dang, I will be happy to see it.
Well, hey, that's a calling out there to everyone who's watching right now. Keep your eyes on Sigmy Overwatch 2 because you never know what is going to happen, especially once we reach towards the mid-season playoffs or even into, who knows, maybe the grand finals themselves, like Hunter just said. But this is going to be the end of Friday Night Overwatch for the EU side of things, but make sure you go ahead and hit that follow button because we do have an NA match happening later tonight at 8 p.m. EST. And this one is going to be between, oh boy, this is going to be fun to say, Mischievous Boxes versus Sussy Sloths. Wonder what makes them sussy. Who knows? But that's why you want to go ahead and hit those follow button so that way you get notifications to when this channel goes live, the CGL channel goes live, as well as all of the exciting action that happens throughout the entire weekend and throughout the week itself. But from me, Soavdanam, Hunter Tane, Twin Salty, we do thank you very much for watching, and I do want to give also a big thank you to our behind-the-scenes production, that being Hippie, that being Little Joe and Zeuser for all of their hard work to make us look as good and sound as good as we do. And of course, for all of the great in-game moments. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see all of you on the next broadcast.